Morning, Amita. Today is a very special day because you said you were going to show us some letters of the mother. And I also wanted to ask you about how she taught you dramatics. A big subject.
A very long subject because I started reciting when I was 11 years old in front of an audience. That was our first annual day. And I think I went on till I was 45 years old.
How did Mother teach you?
At first, it was actually, I was chosen by our class teacher for reciting. I think I told you. For reciting on the first annual day, he had chosen who?
Yes.
I think I spoke of it, I'm not very sure.
It would be nice if you could read that one day. Could I bring it?
I have it here.
Oh, you have it
but
here?
Let us first finish the talking.
Sure.
Then we will go into
Okay,
poetry.
Very good, very good.
I was very young. I was just 11 years old, and it was the first annual day. So my teacher, Shishida, she had selected stanzas from the Who. We had learned the whole poem in the class for reciting in front of people. He was not very sure that I would be able to, stand in front of people in sari, and because I used to wear always. Then he called me one evening around 6:30, and he asked me to recite in the meditation hall in front of Amrita's room, where the mothers and Aurobindo painted portrait. I had stood there and facing where Mother's couch is now. So after the recitation was over of only a few stanzas, the next morning Shishida told me that a few more stanzas have to be added. Aurobindo says that the sequence of thought is not clear, it is disrupted. He was hearing from his own room. And so a few more stanzas were added, and then I recited again, and it was all right.
And about plays, the different plays that you did and taught students?
But I would like to add one little thing here.
Yes.
At that time, what I did was, as I was taught, and there are different styles in recitation, and many people make it a little sing-song, make it a little, so I had recited like that. But the following year, 1945, we had done the prologue in front of the mother, prologue of Perseus the Deliverer. Certain scenes were also part of our curriculum in English. And at that time, we had to do in the darshan room. And Mother came out from Aurobindo's room, and he was ready to listen to us, and I recited. So at the end of the recitation, Mother said to me, "Toi, tu pourras faire, you will be able to do. Tu as le sentiment, you can express the feeling. You have feeling in the expression." That is, I understood. Much later, I remembered that the last part of Alfini's monologue I had done in my own way. That means the imagination was very clear, Thou wingest Perseus from the eternal snows, not knowing whither thou wingest, you know. And the last lines, be glad of life, be glad of love. And I shall get the book, I think.
Actually, I think your memory is incredible.
Persis, for the 1st December annual day program, was done only in one scene prologue, 1945, one scene at 3 scene 1, where Andromeda decides to go and release the prisoners, and Act 3 scene 1, and we did almost the whole in 1954, so that it gave a whole sequence. The scenes were selected by Normanda and me, and it was centered around the character of Andromeda. But in 1966, Svetlana directed Perseus the Deliverer. There we had done the whole play. And there I had done the role of Cassiopeia, the queen. But these few were seen by the mother.
So 45, 46,
and 54. Yeah. I was recalling this, but the contrast was also felt by me. I was very young. It is a dialogue between Athene and Poseidon, and Poseidon is very daring, and he says, "Dread virgin, I will not war with thee, army potent," because he was. So Athene says, "Then send thy champion forth to meet my champion, and let their conflict govern ours, Poseidon." Who is thy champion? Perseus, the Olympian's son, whom Danae in her strong brazen tower, Acrisius' daughter, bore by heavenly gold, lapped into slumber. For of that shining rain, he is the beautiful offspring. Poseidon is annoyed. The parricide that is to be. But my sea monster's fangs and fiery breathings shall prevent that murder. Farewell, Athene. Farewell, until I press my feet upon thy blue enormous main and add thy ocean to my growing empire. Poseidon disappears into the sea. He dives into the deep, and with a din, the thunderous divided waters meet above his grisly head. Thou wingest Perseus from northern snows to this fair sunny land, not knowing in the night what way thou wendest. But dawn comes, and over earth's far rim the round sun rises, as thyself shalt rise on Syria, and thy rosy Andromeda, a thing of light. Rejoice, thou famous hero, be glad of love, be glad of life, whose bosom harbors the quiet strength of pure Athene. and she disappears into the light. So this was the one for which she said, Twachipurata, you will be able to do.
When did you first begin teaching dramatics?
Oh, that's much later. Before that, there are many incidents with the mother.
Oh, I see. Oh, wonderful.
In 1948, 47, we did, oh, that's a memorable thing I mustn't forget. We did scenes from Ahana. I had done Ahana, and Arati had done the invocation, representing the human aspiration which calls down Ahana. This should come first, perhaps.
Keep it.
Then that, oh,
One. So this would be one, this would be
two,
two,
and this
this would be three.
If you want, keep it here.
one.
Ah, okay.
That is when Arati is reciting the first few lines. She is in front. This
Yeah.
is when
Yeah,
Arati,
okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Arati is reciting, vision delightful, alone on the peaks whom the silences cover, vision of bliss, stoop down to mortality, lean to thy lover.
This is a backdrop
Of the Himalayas, painted by Anil Kumar. Here, the scenery of the Himalayas.
Yes, beautiful.
Mother had liked the scenery so much that she had kept it for the next year also, following year, when her play was supposed to happen in the Alps or somewhere. So from the window cut out in the backdrop scene, one could see the mountains. So at that time it served as the Alps Mont Blanc. For Ahana, which is in quantitative meter, hexameter, and Norman was training us. Mother read out the passage. One day we were called into Mother's own rooms. Mother was sitting on her couch, and Arati, Normanda and I were sitting on the floor carpet at her feet. And she read out the portions, and we came back, and we used to rehearse in this house downstairs. So one day, we were very young at that time, Arati and I decided Ahana has to come down the mountain path, so we will tell Norman that today we will recite on the staircase. I come down the staircase and she will be at the foot of the staircase. We were preparing like that to give him a good surprise, And suddenly he came in with an European gentleman, an Englishman, tall, blue eyes, and we were stiff with surprise. So he said, Norman Das simply said, you have to do your rehearsal. He is he's an actor from England, going to listen to you today. Actor from England going to listen to our recitation. Well, we did it, and then he was following the book and at the same time listening to us. And he shut the book and said, they are managing the hexameter well, or something like that, quantitative meter well. I have written it down, I'm forgetting the exact words. Then he showed the gentleman out and we came back, he came back for the rehearsal, and he said, he was very impressed with your... So the credit went to Norman, and because he had told us, and plus Mother had read out to us already, so he had told us about how in a play or a recitation, the pauses are almost more important than the spoken part. Because when you pause, the audience sees the truth of your emotion and feeling. That is my explanation. He had simply told us the pauses are more important than the speech. One could almost say. So I learned a great deal from that comment. After the recitation, or during the recitation rather, he had explained to us that Ahana speaks, in Ahana Aurobindo speaks of the aspiration of different types of people, artists and seekers. Actually it is seekers of power, seekers of knowledge, and seekers of bhakti, of love, delight, seekers of delight. So at that time I was too young to understand all that. So, but I was quite excited about dramatics and stage. So I told Norman we could have a tableau with person representing painting, another person representing music with a sitar or something in the hand and all that. Aurobindo was following our ideas. So he simply said, it is not quite that it will do. So much later I understood, we were so young, he was letting our imagination go in any direction with his text so that we may grow freely. That's how I understood it and interpreted it. The year after that, yes, 1947-48, Mother had chosen a French comedy. At 47, we did Ahana, and a French comedy was done. In 1948, she chose a French comedy with a few recitations before that. So somebody, one of the sadhaks, asked, why is Mother choosing light comedies for the ashram annual day, school annual day? So Mother said that it is so that more life and strength comes into the vital. The Indian vital is very dormant. It has to come to life and get strength. And there is a codeus Mother has called vital strength, and another one which she has called Quiet Strength in the Vital. So Mother gave one to each of us, and afterwards I read in Aurobindo's letters that vital strength means you can do the same work, the same duty every day with equal enthusiasm, the same enthusiasm with which you started the work. To be able to keep up one's spirits, you know. Well, so
you did the French comedy.
The French comedy. After this, the French comedy was Le Voyage de Monsieur Perrichon. It was play by very light-hearted play where rich bourgeois goes to the Alps, and that was done by Udar. And the wife, a French lady we call Liliane, who was here, one of our teachers here, she had done Madame Perrichon. And I had done Mademoiselle Perrichon, the daughter, who is sought after by two young men. And the two are friends. So they decide to approach, they evidently want the hand of the daughter so as to be rich, because it is a... So they decide that one of them will flatter the ego of the father and try to broach the subject that way, and the other will go through the mother. And it was a very amusing thing. And we were doing it after all the French disciples read out the edited play. The play was edited by Mother herself. And the edited play was read in Pavitrada's room upstairs, where his office was at that time. So Mother herself read my part. And then we were there. All the other actors were conversant with the play, but Udar and I were there, who did not know French like the French, and we were sitting. I don't remember if the one who did, one of the young men, Pranabda's brother, Redai, had done. I don't remember him in Mother's room upstairs when we listened to the play. But afterwards, when we were in the playground, Mother used to sit in front of the veranda with the pillars, and afterwards she shifted to inside the veranda. One day as I was crossing, she called me and she said, "Bring your script." So I ran home and I took the script and I took it to her, and she said, "Now read your part." And I read it, though Mother corrected one or two things, and Mother said it is quite good. Then I forget the exclamatory sentence. There was one exclamatory sentence. Mother said, "It is too English still, not yet French." And Pavitrada, who was going by, was called by the mother, and the two of us read that dialogue scene. I only remember the way my friends around used to tease me because I had a slight slouch. I used to walk a little like that. And in the play, the mother, Madame Perrichon, when she's meeting the would-be sons-in-laws, I'm standing like that, and there she says, "Tiens-toi donc droite, stand erect, straight." You know, so everyone used to tease me that it's the right sentence for you. and
So you and Pavitra read the lines.
yes,
Mother approved.
and that comment of the mother's, it is to English, brought my attention to the two intonations. That English intonation is different from the French. And luckily, we had a French teacher who had also acted in the play, and he used to hold a few dramatics classes in French. And he told me, French is a language which has no accent. So, you know, in English you have the accents and the rhythm, and the rhyme, of course, is there in French also. The rhythm and the speed at which you will read, you know, I don't know how to say it, depends very much on the mood and the accents. Whereas in French, where there's no accent, you have to read the sentences by elongating the ends of the lines a little bit. And in one play we had done in the classroom, Cyrano de Bergerac, of a story of a very, very witty and one could almost say learned man who had a hooked nose, and everyone laughed at it. And in one of the scenes, he says, you could have, somebody mocked at him and he got very annoyed. He says, you could have been a little more imaginative. You could have said, your nose like the perching of the bird, you know. What is that? Perchoir in French. You could have birds on your nose perching there. Or, what is the other image that was very amusing? I only remember this one. He gave about 7 or 8 images that the person could use. And our dramatics teacher asked us to learn by heart a few lines where the main story is a love story of a young girl who Cyrano is very much in love with. But as he is not handsome, he can't expect her to marry him. So, and she is in love with a young man, very handsome, but who can't speak, who is very shy. So what he arranges is that the lady will come, Roxanne is her name, will come to the balcony, and this fellow will be standing, singing praises to her beauty and all that. And all the lines are prompted by Cyrano from below the balcony where she will be seen. So, but afterwards, this young handsome man dies, and the young woman becomes a nun. And Cyrano goes to visit her in the convent without revealing his passion, very quietly. And the lines that we had learned were comme quand vous montez lentement vers ces portes, votre robe de deuil traîne des feuilles mortes. Just as you go up the steps to reach your doorway, your robe sweeps up the dry leaves. Huh? Votre robe traîne des feuilles mortes. In the same way, I forget the actual line, but our teacher taught us at that time that you have to drag it at the end, comme quand vous montez lentement vers ces portes, votre robe de deuil traîne des feuilles mortes. I can't say it so well nowadays, but there is another thing that he taught us, was that the K sound of comme is different from the K sound of quand. Comme is a little more like English, and quand is very soft. So this is one thing we learned in French diction. We learned from from Marie Amélie the other aspect of French diction, where she taught us that the A in French has got 3 different sound values. One is A in front, another is A in the middle of the mouth, and another is A deeper down. And in French, all the 3 are used in the language. Âme, notre âme monte vers toi, or whatever it is. Notre aspiration monte vers toi. How to get the other one? Aspiration is all right. Vers toi, à toi is towards you, to you. À is very light. Aspiration is in the middle, and âme, soul, with a circumflex is deeper. That's what we learned in French diction. And Mother brought out the other difference between English and French. In English, you always come down at the end of the sentence. Even an exclamation, you can say, how well you did this, how beautiful your arrangement is. But in English also, the Indian way would be, how beautiful your arrangement is. You know, you would go up, that is also acceptable. So, but in English, which Mother pointed out, I came down in the exclamation. So that is about the French play. Oh yes, we used to have our rehearsals on the top floor of Golconda. There are 3 double rooms. In one of the rooms we used to have our rehearsals. And I had been taken ill. I think that's the year I had joined us, or I don't remember. But it was a long illness. When I went to Golconda, we had to climb all those stairs. And the one who was doing the other role, Hriday, Pranabdas's brother, was doing the other suitor, you know. And our teacher was doing his friend. We were going up together, and he saw that I was lagging behind. He went up and I was lagging behind. So he said, shall I carry you? I said, no, you go ahead, I will manage it. By the time I entered the double room for the rehearsal, everyone was waiting for me. I was a little self-conscious. But then they said, flowers for you. Flowers? Mother sent them. Directly from the ashram. There were flowers for me. I couldn't understand that evening why. By the time I came back, I understood. I made that physical effort to go up the stairs after my illness. That must have been a blessing, because once I held the flowers in the hand, I went through the rehearsal normally, no problem at all. Sending flowers directly from the mother, I have had two other very strange experiences. Mother had talked to us about a lady, the wife of Monsieur Théon in Algiers, where mother had learnt occultism. She told us the story of seeing beside her pillow a handful of flowers. She said, she told herself, I've locked the door. Then the next evening, while going out, she locked very carefully a double lock and went in. And she came back, the flowers were there. Then she understood that not only Monsieur Théon, but Madame Théon, who was, I think, an English woman, was also an occultist. And she could dissolve the flowers and put them in beside mother's pillow. And the flowers were what we call Shandamoni in Bengali. Spiritual comfort was the earlier name. It blooms in the evening, has a very beautiful fragrance, and dies in the morning. I have one or two plants here. I think mother changed the significance afterwards. Yes, no, spiritual comfort. I think it was solace first. I can't remember the exact wordings.
I know the flower.
But beside my pillow, I found one day a handful of jasmine flowers. Mother used to give us jasmine every night when we went for blessings in the meditation hall. She used to have a whole dish full of jasmines piled up like that, and she would give to each one. So, and I brought the jasmines and put beside my pillow always. Someone had told me that if you sleep with that beside, you have beautiful dreams, you have a nice, peaceful night, and so on. Then one morning I got up and I saw there was one more handful of jasmine there. I said, but I didn't put this one. Mine is here, a little faded and dried up, and this one is fresh. So I understood mother had put it there. And I think when I went the next morning, she expected me to recognize it. But I was such a forgetful person, I quite... So once I found the jasmines beside my pillow, once that spiritual comfort or solace, I don't know which is the name. So those are flowers given directly, and this reminds me of a question Vasudha Ben, you know Vasudha Ben, had asked the mother, and Vasudha Ben was in charge of our embroidery department, and she was very good at embroidery, and she spoke French also rather well. And she had asked the mother in the classroom, what is the significance of psychological perfection? So, but before that, she had said, Mother, how is it when we make an effort to progress, and it is a sincere effort, there are more difficulties on the way. So Mother said, it is to test your sincerity that such things happen. And to someone else, much later, she had given a very nice image in the classroom, in the playground, on a Wednesday class, I think. How is it we are seeing more defects in ourselves now that you have spoken of the supramental light and all that? So we all thought all our difficulties should be reduced. And Mother said, imagine a room where there is only a kerosene lamp in the corner. It lights up a circle, a very limited circle of the floor of the room. And then comes this electric light, and you switch on the light, the whole room is lighted up. And you see all the cobwebs and all the dust and all that has to be cleaned up. So it is like that. Now there is more light, and so you see all the defects of your nature.
We've just about run out of time again. It seems like there's so much more.
Yes, I think I should speak a word about Mother's announcing to me that I have to do the role of Savitri. It was in 1949. I had entered Mother's room at the top of the staircase. She used to receive us. She told me, at the top of the staircase is what I have already told you. She used to see me in the corridor separately. In 1949, Amita, Amrita came here very young, and when he was doing his matriculation in Madras, Chennai, during his holidays he would come. And he was a very young boy, and Aurobindo used to read to him his poems. And I didn't know that. I connected it much later. Amrita was the one who selected the first recitation from Savitri when only a few cantos had been printed. Aurobindo was still revising. And he had given an editor's title, Debate Between Love and Death. He called Savitri Love and Yama Death. And the editor's title was that. And Mother came to me, and she was full of luminous happiness and compassion. She caught my hand and she said, he has himself chosen you for the role of Savitri. Il t'a lui-même décerné pour Savitri. So, I had long experience, and my immediate reaction was to prepare myself every year for that role, in whichever, because you grow up. I was 16 at that time. So as I grew up, I started learning how to clear my mind and my nature I used to tell myself, I'm going to do Savitri, so no bad will, no anger, like that, removing from my consciousness all that is dark, so that I may be fit to say the lines. In 1950, we did Vision and the Boom, Manoj had done the role of Ashwapati, and I had done the role of Savitri. I have an old photograph of that role. Where did I keep the photograph? Just a minute. Radhagyon. And I have the Vision and the Boon photograph somewhere. This is for here.
Good morning.
That one afterwards. This is for Vision and the Boon, 1950. It looks a little elementary because of the wooden cover that they have put in front of the stove, the bench on which I had to stand.
Would you read your note?
Yes. This dress rehearsal day, Mother decided that the costume should not be have any blouse, that I should not have any blouse. She told me goddesses did not wear blouses. And my own mother was beside her, and she looked at my mother for approval. So my mother said, yes, it is true. So this was there after the rehearsal. She decided that the right shoulder should be bare. So from then on, the right shoulder is bare. I don't have any picture of that just now. I have it elsewhere.
And this one?
This one is much later. This one is with, you know, Rolf Galufsky?
Yes.
He had done a special dance on the 1st of January 1970. He had also danced in front of the mother, and it was a small area in mother's room, but mother liked it very much. And she said, I think, that all the gestures correspond to an inner experience that she also had, something like that. And we were the chorus, and the chorus ranged from white to light blue to dark blue. We were, I think, 11 or 12 in the chorus, and I had white, and this was the costume. And it is a photograph. I don't know if you know Sudha Sundaram. She takes very good pictures. Mother liked many of her pictures very much. She became quite a photographer. Now I don't know. She goes out, comes in. She has talks in Gujarat, where her father had a center. But earlier she used to take photographs. This is taken by her. And she took always her work to the mother. So she had taken this to the mother. And mother couldn't recognize me. So mother asked her, who is this? And Sudha came back and told me, does mother call you by any other name? She couldn't understand. Then I said, Amita. Mother said, And then she said, Mother, the one who does Savitri? And she tried to give all sorts of combinations. Then naturally here it is very difficult to recognize the person. This is as one of the chorus in Rolf Galufsky's dance with Sinead's music. He had taken the permission to take only the music with mother's without mother's reading, and we had done the recitation, and the general title was The Yoga of the King. We had done from there. So this was the costume. Here you see the others somewhat standing. This is the other people's colored costumes that have come.
Could we ask you to read one small sonnet or something to end today's visit? Whatever you choose.
I would I would like him to take this letter from the mother for 1972, where when I had fallen a little ill, mother has said, en réponse à ta lettre, je dis, c'est bien. Pour le 1er décembre, j'ouvre le rôle de Savitri avec confiance. Ce sera sûrement bien. I hesitated. I should translate it. In answer to your letter, I say, it is good. For the 1st of December, do the role of Savitri with confidence. It is surely going to be good.
For our next meeting, we will have a camera to photograph this,
Yes.
and then we can insert it into the video.
In the English literature class, we had learnt that through a 5-act play, a character grows. And there are characters which are typal characters, which remain the same throughout the play. And I learnt through the role of Vasavadatta how her character grows from one act to the other. And I had studied it very carefully. That year, Shrimai Pitoev, Varvara Pitoev's, Svetlana's sister, had come and had directed the play with Norman Dowsett. And she had called me to her residence here, not the one which she finally took. She was in Castellini at that time as a visitor. So she called me there and she trained me for the monologues. And she said quite clearly that a monologue also grows from one scene to the other. And quite strange for me, Vasavadatta has almost every time she speaks a monologue at the end of her scene. What is very strange about this play is that it is an Indian theme that has been dealt with by other dramatists of the past, but Aurobindo's is quite unique, as usual. And Vasavadatta, the heroine, is spoken of in the first 2 acts, but her first appearance is in Act 3. And I used to find it a little difficult to enter the role because she has been spoken of all the time. And her father has said to her, be careful, you don't forget that you are my daughter. Thy brain is quick and will understand. Vatsa, Kausambi's king, my rival, foe, my fate's high stumbling block. Captive today comes to Avanti. Avanti is their capital, their kingdom. I mean that he shall be thy husband, Vasavadatta, and thy slave. By thee he must become, who now resists, my vassal, even as other monarchs are. That was his advice to his daughter, who says, Father, thy will is mine, even as 'tis fate's. Thou givest me to whom thou wilt. What share in this have I, but only to obey? Then her mother speaks to her. Her mother says that thou hast heard the king, hear now thy mother. So she tells her how love brings a strange type of energy and fire to the being. My child, the flower blooms for its flowerhood only, and not to make its parent bed more high. Not for thy sire thy mother brought thee forth, but thy dear nature's growth and heart's delight, and for a husband, and for children born. So then she gives Vasavadatta the assurance that she will look after her and watch her from far. Vasavadatta says, I love her best, but do not understand. My mind can always grasp my father's thoughts. If I must wed, it shall be one I rule. Vatsa Udayan, I've heard only a far-flung name. What is the man? A flame, a flower, high like Gopalaka, or as some golden fair and soft-eyed youth? I have a fluttering in my heart to know. Gopalaka is her brother, elder brother, who is supposed to be heir to the throne after his father. In the next monologue, she has met Vatsa and Gopalaka, and she plays with him when Vatsa enters. What is thy name? I'll hear it from thy lips. Vatsa. Thou shudderest, Vatsa? Dost thou fear? Perhaps. There is a fear in too much joy. I did not hear. My brother loves thee well. Take comfort. If thou serve me faithfully, thou hast no cause for any grief at all. Thou art Kausambi's king. Men call me so. And now my servant. That my heart repeats. I did not hear. Kausambi's king, my slave, what canst thou do to please me? And he gives all that he can do, song or painting, and everything he was good at. And her last monologue here, which shows that she has grown from the stage where she decides that she will rule over Vatsa. She says, will he charm me from my purpose with a smile? how beautiful he is, how beautiful. I sent him from me, for his words troubled me, and still delighted. They have a witchery. No, not his words, his voice. 'Tis not his voice, nor yet his smile, his face, his flower-soft eyes. And yet it is all these and something more. I fear it will be difficult after all. Then she says, I govern no longer what I speak and do. Is this the fire my mother spoke of? Oh, it is sweet, it is sweet. But I will not be mastered by any equal creature. Let him serve obediently, and I will load his lovely head with costliest favors. He's my own, my slave, my toy to play with as I choose. And shall not, etc. The next one says how she has outgrown that again. There is a fire within me and a cry. My longings have all broken in a flood, and I am the tossed spray. Oh, my desire that Christ, for the beauty of his limbs, and to feed all his body with thyself, and lose thy soul in his sweet answering soul, wilt thou not all this night be silent? I will walk upon the terrace in moonlight. Perhaps the large, silent night will give me peace. For now, 'twere vain to sleep. Oh, in his arms about me and the world expunged. There is another monologue which I wanted to read. Then they create a scene where they are having a I can't give you the details. Perhaps oh yes, this is the one it's a very short one. She stays in the tower, closed tower, with Vatsa the whole night, because her handmaidens, Manjulika, a princess who is a slave there, and Amba have created this situation. And Vasavadatta says to Amba, leave Vatsa, leave me, take him, Amba, from me. Amba quietly in Vasavadatta's ear says, who now is bribed? We are all traitors now. And Vasavadatta to herself, oh joy, if he and all were only mine. Oh, greatness to be queen of him and earth. I grow a rebel to my father's house.